So we're trying to stop deforestation and enable reforestation by bringing much better satellite-based maps to the market. So I was an academic for 15 years. I've measured 15,000 trees in 13 different tropical countries and developed methods of taking large sets of different types of satellite data, getting the strength of those to make really high quality maps. And that enables money to flow into stopping deforestation and helping the climate crisis, because without good quality mapping data that you trust, no one's going to flow money into these projects.
So Ed, you're here today at the NYSE because you're presenting at our Carbonomics event and participating in a panel on nature-based solutions. So could you elaborate on how space intelligence is mapping capabilities when it comes to supporting these kind of solutions?
Sure. So nature-based solutions projects are mostly those that are trying to stop deforestation or restore areas that have previously been deforested. Yes. To turn those into carbon offsets, you need good quality maps of where forest used to be, where it is now, tracking to check it hasn't been disturbed, and to track the carbon growing in new trees and in these existing forests. So we produce a set of different types of products using a wide range of satellite data to map that forest carbon and map the change in forests to enable money to flow to those projects.
And you know, there was a new announcement that ICE, the parent company of NYSE, has collaborated with Space Intelligence on a new commodity traceability service. Can you tell me more about this, and what specific role does Space Intelligence play in this sort of collaboration?
So Space Intelligence is providing the mapping data that underpins this ICE commodity tracking service. So we're particularly focused on coffee and cocoa at the moment. So ICE runs the futures market that trades the majority of the world's cocoa and coffee, I believe. But this new regulation in the EU, which I think is a fantastic thing, is trying to stop any cocoa or coffee coming into the EU that has deforestation associated with it. But you can only check that using satellite-based maps. We're not going to have individual people going to every single farm to check. And even if we could, we don't have time machines. We can't look back to 2020 when things needed to have been already productive as cocoa or coffee to be allowed into the EU. So we provide really high integrity maps that can be trusted and can power this process, this service, to add integrity to the coffee and cocoa markets. There are free and open satellite-based maps of forest cover. They don't do a good job in this situation because they're effectively maps of where trees are. Mm-hmm. Cocoa and coffee both grow on trees. So to find where an active farm was in 2020 compared to natural forest, you need to be able to use the full information and AI that's available to look at these satellite data sets to differentiate between cocoa and coffee plantations and natural forest.
Ed, can you talk to me about how this service supports stakeholders in the commodity supply chain, such as producers and traders and the regulators even?
Sure. So if you have low quality maps, so maps that don't really show where forest areas are, the people who are not going to be able to sell their coffee and cocoa and who will really lose out, I think, are smallholder farmers who exist in a mosaic of complicated landscapes where there are bits of patches of forest and patches of agriculture. Mm-hmm. If you can't separate those properly, then those smallholders are going to get cut out of the supply chain. It's going to end up places like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Brazil. Poor small farmers that live near the poverty line are going to struggle to get high values for their cocoa or their coffee because of this mapping data. So it's really vital that the mapping data is trusted, or we're just going to get coffee and cocoa from very large farms that are far away from forest blocks and have much less biodiversity and social value.
How would you say the satellite and space data industry is going to evolve over the next 5 to 10 years? And how is that going to help addressing climate change?
We're actually really lucky. We're in a kind of golden era for satellite data. There's loads of satellites up right now funded by taxpayers in the West, so funded by US and European Union and the United Kingdom from NASA and the European Space Agency, that provide all the data we need to track forest change and forest carbon storage. So we get good views at a 10 meter resolution, so 10 by 10 meter pixels every week or so over the whole planet. And we use that data to track forests, to track for disturbance, so removing trees as well as total clearance of areas, and to track the forest growth into carbon growth into forests. So that data exists. We don't need new developments and new satellites to do the work we're doing. What we need is continuity, and for those satellites to carry on being funded into the 2030s. That allows stabilities for businesses like us and the services we provide to businesses like ICE, and the continuity of these operational satellite systems.